Episode 64 with none other.
How many languages can you say episode 64
Then
in?
Facundo.
Ready, go.
64.
Etchecolatz.
That's me.
Okay,
Yeah.
say 64 in as many languages as you know.
Oh boy, it could take a
No,
1 hour
he's-
of podcast.
Okay, at least 3.
Later. So you just warm up into the thing and then I'll...
Facundo can literally, we did our
Well, that just
our
kind of let me
European
down.
tour,
Right.
And we went all over Europe and the UK because the UK is not Europe. Don't say that over there.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
I'm just kidding. That was the joke that we always told. It was overdone, but it was done.
Okay.
But Facundo could literally go from, like, at one point we were in 4 different countries that spoke 4 different languages, and he
Wow.
could switch. And he could, like, by the end of the seminar, because we'd done, 17 in 8 days? 9 days?
No, we did 21, I think. No,
It was a lot.
21, yeah.
It was a lot. And he could literally say part of it in one language, go straight into the next language, into the next language. It was impressive.
Wow.
And then I
How
got a
many
headache.
languages do you speak fluently?
5.
Yeah. So
5.
English,
So Spanish, English, French, German, Italian.
Wow.
Wow.
We asked you the other day, which one you dreaming?
Depends the kind of dream. But mostly in English, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
English is a good dreaming language, yeah.
Well, you were just singing in English. That's pretty good.
I like to sing. The thing is, I do it very badly, like CrossFit, but I like to sing.
Nah.
It makes me very happy to sing, actually.
That's what we were talking about before, too, is go ahead and sing the song.
I love you, babe.
So that when we were in Europe,
Show tunes.
when we were in Europe, I started counting on day 3 how many times he sung that song, and it was 20 plus, I think it was. So
day.
Wow.
A day, yeah. A day.
What movie is that in? Probably a bunch, but I feel like
Yeah.
there's Father of the Bride or...
I can't remember. What
I don't know. It's just that singing
Catchy.
for me
It's
is
catchy.
happiness. I mean, when I'm happy, I'm singing always.
Do you still sing that song every day?
No, I
Switches
change.
it up.
Oh, okay.
I change, yeah.
Sweet Caroline was one you were singing the other day.
Yeah, so for my birthday, Hillary threw a party for me, the first ever party that I have on my birthday.
Aw.
And she knows I like to sing, so they put a karaoke thing, and then Rich was obliged to sing.
I sang.
Did you really?
Sweet
What'd you s-
Caroline.
Oh,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that was my go-to back in the day.
Really?
It's like when you don't have to be a good singer, you just
Right.
gotta be obnoxious.
Yeah.
So that's what I sing now, apparently.
Yeah, I like it.
And so my daughter, she's 2.5 years old. We sing that song very often, and then she goes like, oh. That's good. So it's really nice. It's really, really nice.
I like it.
Oh,
good.
that's
This
awesome.
is good. I didn't know this about you.
Yeah, music is really important. So I studied music for 2.5 years, and I work for a major recording company of opera. And like 10 years ago, before CrossFit, before jumping, and I used to love it a lot. I work with as an assistant to many opera singers. I traveled through the world with them, especially to
Oh
Asia.
my gosh, wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And it was fun. It was fun while it lasted.
I'm just going to be honest, all right? Can I be honest?
It depends.
Okay.
Will it hurt me? Will it hurt me? No. Okay, then you can be
Just
honest.
hurt
I
me.
really feel like you're a spy or something. Like you're a secret agent.
Well, why are you
There's
gonna
so
bring
many
it
things.
up?
No,
He goes all
don't
over
say
the
that's
world.
going to cancel my visa to the States. No.
You should have written that in code or something. Are you a spy?
Yeah.
You've been everywhere. This guy's been everywhere. He speaks all kinds of languages. He CrossFits. He does.
I didn't know
he's
about
a-
the opera thing.
Opera was, and it's funny enough. So in my family, we have this thing, and with my mom lives in Germany. I live in Belgium, and we go to the opera twice a year, and we make two times 1 week in Berlin. Berlin has
Wow.
4 opera houses, and we do opera every single night, like every single night. And then during the summer, there's a festival of German opera that you get maybe 5 to 7 years waiting list for a ticket.
Wow.
So if
So
you
you
go
have
today,
it, like-
maybe in 2025,
Jeez.
you're going to be there
Wow.
if you're still alive. So we go there every summer, and this is a beautiful thing that I have with my mom to
That's
just
awesome.
spend time together to the music. Yeah.
What's something about the opera that people who know nothing about the opera
Me.
should know? Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know a good question for that. So what's something interesting that we should know about
Funny
opera?
enough, art is you don't need to know always about art to enjoy it. You know, sometimes goes to your soul or to your brain, and inspires you or makes you feel different emotions, and that should be enough sometimes. Now, if you want to work hard and understand it better, there are operas that you can maybe buy a ticket, go to the opera like a movie, and say, "Oh, it was great. I enjoyed it. It touched my heart. I cried or I laughed." There are other forms of art, of opera itself, that you need to go prepared. You know, you are going to do some work to understand what it's all about.
What's going on?
And but it's beautiful.
Is it a natural gift or can it be trained, do you think, an opera singer?
it's like CrossFit actually. You have to have amount of flesh in your throat, and it's true.
Right. Yeah.
And vocal cords thick enough as to be able to use them often. But then you need to be clever and you need to be hardworking and like anything else in life.
It seems like opera is in another language here. If you were going to the opera here in the United States, it'd be another language. In Germany.
Yeah. So the thing is, like, when opera made its way to the world in the 17th, 18th, 19th century, in America, music was not a big thing, and also you're a younger country than Europe.
Barely even a country.
Yeah. Right.
But there are many American opera composers that are very, very good. I mean, the main opera house in New York was opened in the 60s with the opera of an American composer called Leonard Bernstein, who was a very famous guy. And he also used his popularity to bring opera to television. So he used to have a TV show explaining children about opera and so on.
Wow,
Can you guys even name an opera singer? Can you name one if you had to?
I saw one in Verona, but I don't
Isn't
know.
Bublé's not an opera singer. He does kind of like...
Right. Celine Dion sang with some guy who was an opera dude.
Yeah, Andrea Bocelli.
The tenor.
Yeah.
So the thing...
We know that one.
Yeah.
The thing is like...
That's what I was thinking.
We're fine.
I mean, this is not much of a CrossFit podcast, but the thing of opera singers, so you can sing really good with a microphone, but if you're in an opera house, you don't have any kind of amplification, and there's an orchestra to 150 musicians or 20 musicians, and you need everybody to hear you singing, like all the way up. 3,000. So the Metropolitan Opera House in New York, I think it has 3,800 seats.
Wow.
So no mic, no nothing.
Wow, I didn't know
needs
that.
to hear you. Yeah, it's.
But do they have to sing in specific structures that are designed like acoustically to move sound, or sometimes they just go anywhere?
No, so the singer needs to know how to project the voice in a certain way. So most of the sound comes from the face, actually, from the nose and the vibrations created by it.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Look at us, man. We're culturing people.
I know.
Yeah, well,
Facundo
Froning
would come and
friends.
culture us.
Yeah.
I feel like
I guess
have
I
no
should
idea what we're talking about.
I shouldn't say we're. I guess I should say Facundo was culturing.
It's good. I mean, maybe we'll all go to the opera house once in Nashville. I'm sure there's an opera house in Nashville.
Oh yeah.
I would like to do that. I'd love to do that at least once to say you did that.
You dress up.
I was about to say, don't you have to wear a tux though?
No, you don't need to wear a tux. But funny enough, children, there are operas that are for children, or there are versions that are aimed for the younger audiences, and
It'd probably be better for us mentally.
No.
Is that what you're going with?
I'm saying,
You uncultured swine.
I'm saying that Lakeland would love going there because it's a show. You know, they make it appealing to children, like big costumes and lights, and it's a show.
We just went. My wife took me to the ballet. What's the really Christmas one?
Rockettes.
Nutcracker.
Oh, the rock. Yeah.
And when I was bored of the dancers,
Yeah.
I could at least watch the orchestra.
Okay.
So that helped me. I kind of got a little bored. I mean, I could appreciate it. Like, I wasn't completely like, but I could watch the drums or the cymbals or something or whatever. I don't know. And it was kind of cool. It was fun to see.
It's a show. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how did you end up in the CrossFit space? Tell us a little more about your background. Do you have a very dynamic background?
Yeah. So actually, I'm from Argentina, but I live in Europe. I've been living in Europe for 20-something years now. My mom and my stepdad live there. And I used to, when Facebook started, there's a friend of mine who I knew through the opera world that was posting the whole time about CrossFit stuff. I didn't know what CrossFit was, but like my snatch, it's like 100 pounds. And I was like, this guy's so weird. What's he talking about? And then posting stuff. But it was 2009, you would post every day your single score, you log everything on Facebook actually. So everybody would see that. And the guy was like every single day. And then one day he told me, you should try, it's the best thing in the world and so on. And then I thought it was an American fashion. And I said, yeah, sure. Thank you.
Whatever.
And so he sent me a link, the affiliates map, and he said, well, you have one very close to your place. And I did that.
And I did that.
Leonardo, thank you very much.
Did you weigh 70 pounds when you did that too? Because he said in high school he had to get a written note from the doctor saying that he could participate in PE basically because he weighed 70 pounds.
Wow. I was very tiny. I was a nerd and very tiny.
He said his femur looked like this and then he had a knee and then his tibia was here.
It is true. I mean,
70 pounds.
Sport for me was something that I was not very inspired by when I was a child. I mean, nobody in my family did any sport whatsoever. And, in Argentina, it could be cruel. So Argentinians play soccer a lot, football. Like our football, it's called soccer. And it's like you are great, you are cool and popular, you don't play soccer well, you are bad. So go back to the books and study. Suddenly I
Beat
felt,
it, nerd.
Exactly. You're the last one to be picked always, like, oh man, I prefer to be less players, but please don't bring him to the game. And I know. Everything changed. Everything changed.
I know.
And the world needs
crazy.
nerds, so let's be honest.
Oh, thank you.
No, they always end up being the most valuable.
No, so I was not very gifted in the sport. I struggled when I was a child doing sport, and I didn't like soccer, so my mom also was giving me books the whole time to read, and
that was it.
That was it.
And now look at you now. That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
But so now you work for the embassy and you have gyms, correct? No?
I work in the European Parliament in
the
Brussels.
Parliament. Yeah. Got it.
So I work for the Spaniards, for the Spanish government in the European Parliament, let's say.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a beautiful experience. I've been working there for 15 years now as a parliamentary assistant, political advisor, and it's great. It's a beautiful thing to do.
Do you enjoy interacting with those in the parliament or those in the gym more? Talk about different personalities, maybe. I don't know, maybe not.
I enjoy everything. I think
there's a lot of politics in CrossFit.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh boy, I think
that's why I said maybe not that different.
Probably more politics
there is a
in
lot
CrossFit.
of politics in CrossFit. Let's just move from the subject. But back to your question. Yes, I'd like to interact with everybody. I think that people in the parliament bring me a lot of stuff. People in CrossFit, other stuff. I like CrossFit because there's a very close way for me to see people development. Someone comes to the box and they have their own lives and their whole problems and the goals, and it's beautiful. Within time, you help people to get there.
Yeah.
And
you owned an affiliate for a while too.
Yeah, four. So I had
four affiliates or for a while? Oh, okay.
Four
Wow.
affiliates, yeah. And I used to do, besides the parliament, something like 20 to 24 hours of coaching a week.
Jeez.
And I would come home, I was completely crashed.
Done.
Because I think that coaching is also, besides the technical part, there's a lot of not show, but I like to have this relation with people that I want to feel close to them, and I want them to feel close to me. And so I was really intense for these 4 hours in a row that I was coaching many days a week. And when I got home, I was like,
fried.
Help me chew food. My jaw would not work anymore.
Well, how did you go from starting CrossFit to owning 4 affiliates and really actively making it a business?
So when I was in the first box where I started doing CrossFit, I met was my partner William and Richard, and they told me, we have a plan to open a box. And funny enough, I was in Argentina, and they called me and I said, we find a place to open it, and it was 200 feet from my office. So my office and the parliament and my first box is like 50 seconds walking distance.
Oh, wow.
And I said, yes, take it. It was great. And I felt like kind of Superman, was in a suit working and then walking on the street to the box. Guy, let's make some 10 burpees warming up and so on.
Yeah.
And it was great, yeah.
That's cool.
And it's, yeah.
What's the biggest lesson you have learned from working in the parliament with that kind of personality?
Biggest?
Or just a lesson you've learned from... we interact with CrossFitters on a daily basis, and we learn a lot of lessons from those interactions. Just curious if you had anything that...
I don't know. People are people. I would not put CrossFitters or politicians in a different way. What I dislike the most is when people tell me, oh, you work in politics and then you do CrossFit. Like CrossFit is less than politics.
Right.
Right. And I don't like this comparison. People are people. I think that I learn more on the human side from CrossFitters than from politicians. Not that politicians are bad. They're my best friends. My boss is my best friend, and he's a super guy, and I learned a lot from him. But overall, I've been blessed more through the CrossFit world and the political world. Yeah. So life.
Yeah,
being
that's
good,
fair.
being appreciative, being kind.
Yeah.
Singing.
No, that came from before. That
was opera
DNA.
before.
Yeah.
Well, you have the extreme fortune of you work with so many different CrossFit athletes. I think you've all types of athletes from the U.S. internationally. Do you see any commonalities or massive differences between the European athletes you work with and the U.S. athletes you work with?
Yeah, enormous. So now it changed, but in Europe, like 5, 6, 7 years ago, everything that was weightlifting in Europe was very, very poor compared to American athletes. This one next to me, nothing. You know, but they were very good in monostructural elements. Like they were good rowers and they were good runners or swimmers. Now everything changed. The thing is, like in Europe, we were not exposed to high levels of coaching in those years. There were not many weightlifters that wanted to teach CrossFitters.
This was how long ago?
Like 5, 6, 7 years ago. You know, if you would see regionals and the numbers that American would lift in a snatch, 1 RM or a clean and jerk, they were really high compared to what European male athletes would do. I mean, European girls are a different category. Like they are on their own. But yes, that was.
You need a coach to get better at lifting. No, I was self-taught.
You didn't, yeah. Yeah, people ask me actually
I'm just
that.
kidding. Yeah,
no, but it's true. People ask me, how did Richie do it? I said, I don't know. He was self-taught. I've been...
Just a lot of stupid lifting.
But did you watch videos or anything, or you just...
Yeah, we watched some videos, but I mean, honestly, I think it was just trial and error. It was like, hey, this feels better than this versus, I mean, luckily, having the athletic background that I did, like most of the time, there's some things that I still struggle with, but I can usually pick up stuff pretty decently quick. Or I can, if I don't, I can figure out how to compensate and cheat it a little bit, you know. Like I said, everybody knows I have an early arm pull. Everybody talks about that, trust me. But it works.
Yeah, well...
I'm just kidding about the...
No, but it is true. But nowadays,
everybody has a coach or for something.
An endurance coach, gymnastic coach, mental coach, nutritionist, programmer.
I think that's something that gets lost in you know, when you start trying to compare, you know, obviously everybody wants to compare being Fraser, but it's two completely different eras. Like back then we were literally, it was trial and error back then. It was, hey, what's this guy doing? Let's try that. No, that didn't work. Let's do this. And so, I mean, it's a little bit different. Like now is completely different. I'm fitter than I was back then. But it was all kind of learned and we kind of brought that along. Like nothing against what's going on nowadays, but I mean, everything was trial and error back then. You know?
Literally pioneered things.
Actually?
Do what? 19.2.
19.2. Okay,
yeah.
So you are fit still.
I'm decently fit. Decently fit.
But I mean, you guys were it was kind of because of you guys that people started doing more than one workout a day, right?
When I started, it was like you do one workout a day and you're done. And I remember that we've said it before, but I remember the specific day me and Darren were like, let's try another workout, see if we die.
Which sounds crazy now, but...
And we finished it and we were like, we're not dead. Let's do it again. Like, you know, so it was, but literally back then, that's what, I mean, you go to the level 1, you go to all this stuff and they're like, one workout a day, do it as hard as you can. And then there's still value to that, obviously. And for the general population, that's the way to do it. But to compete, you know, you have to do a couple different things and maybe you can't go 100% in every single workout. Maybe it's 80, 85%. And then, you know, some days you're obviously going to have to push a little bit harder and do, you know, hit that point. But that was something that we learned and that I think gets lost a little bit too, is that, you know, back then it was, that's what it was, is one workout a day.
But I think that's why too, though, I mean, you're such a gifted programmer because you actually had to go through the trial yourself of figuring out
screwed up a lot of stuff.
What works together and what doesn't. And there's so much to be said about, you know, you can take an athletic person now and throw them into CrossFit and knowing what, you know, okay, well, you're going to have to start structurally baseline here and do this, and we're going to have to do this. That wasn't the case back then. It was like new movements were coming as you progressed through CrossFit. So it's like apples and oranges and in the comparison, but talk about like the biggest blessing in disguise from a programming standpoint. Because I mean, look at everything. You have knowledge that they can't even, they didn't have to live that.
You came from a generation too where, you know, now parents are finding coaches for everything. And you came from a generation, you know, where you were doing things. Let's go do this. Let's pick this up and do this and figure this out. And it's different now.
A lot of mine was trial and error, but
I think you were gifted though. I mean, you have this.
Obviously,
there's. You know that I work with Chris Hinshaw, which is my mentor, and we talk about pace. Sorry, is it better now?
Oh wow.
We talk about different voice.
Yeah.
We talk about pacing and so on. You had these ideas that everybody has now alone back then.
Right.
You know, if you see how you have this idea of pacing by feeling or understanding stuff before jumping into
just don't want to hurt that bad.
People have this idea that you were never given 100%.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, and
you
really,
see what you had.
Really,
right?
that came from training a lot with Darren, training with some of the other guys. We had a group of guys and girls that were better at different things than I was, and so like Darren, anything longer workouts would just crush me, and so I kind of stole some stuff from them or from him, and then like I was better at probably the 7 to 12 minute range, and then we had some people that were really good at the short fast stuff, and so luckily I had people that I could kind of push on that stuff, and then Darren could push me on this stuff, and so it was a good balance, and I learned things from them. It wasn't just all me, so we had a good group to start with for sure.
And I think you can't underestimate you had a culture of people around you that were all heading the same direction.
Yeah, everybody wanted
the environment was super competitive, and everybody wanted to learn.
Yeah, talk about a journey. So back to the differences between the athletes.
I hijacked that.
Tell me.
You tell me.
Well, so that was the main thing that I would see, that weightlifting here was much more developed than in Europe and so on. I think nowadays everything changed. If you see now, well, it's a bit complicated to understand how the leaderboard now works, but lately during the games you saw a lot of European athletes making the top 10. I think that last year the female field was 7 non-American female athletes in the top 10.
Wow.
So those things change a lot. I remember that I used to ask some Icelandic athletes, why are you so good? I said, well, we live in a place that is so dark throughout 6 months of the year.
All we have to do is train.
So we have to do is train inside. So there are not so many options, which I know how true that is, but it sounds okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds really good.
Makes sense. What else are you going to do?
In the dark.
Viking stuff.
Yeah.
I see you have a lot of questions for me there.
I have
Should
lots
I be scared?
no, these are, I've been able to hang out with you a lot. I know that you're really interesting
You can tell when she's excited, when she has lots of questions.
Lots of
It's like,
questions.
I know.
She gets
Well,
all
they're kind
dialed
of like
in.
just all over the place, though.
Well, that's okay.
Well, it's simple stuff. Like one of my questions was, do you consider yourself organized? Because I figure you balance, Parliament, CrossFit, working with these other people, scheduling things, jumping on planes to help host people.
I'm going to say yes, because when we were when we were in Europe, we were in 8 countries in 9 days.
Yeah.
We never once stayed in one country more than one night, except for when we were in England. That was the only place we stayed 2 nights, because we ended up going in the train the night before from Brussels. And I can't stand traveling. I hate it. And then overseas is so difficult because you don't speak the language, any of that stuff. With this guy, you literally, no problem. It was the easiest, most seamless travel that I've ever been a part of, domestic or international. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and answer that one.
This was the one question I wanted to get answered. Tips on traveling, no joke. Like, you're all over the world all the time. So what are the things that you got to do?
This is a 2-part question.
Okay, because I'm interested in that.
Go traveling first. I want to know how organized he is too.
Do you have a huge suitcase? Do you have a small suitcase? How do
I
you have
used to
enough
travel
stuff?
with a suitcase the size of this table and, for 3 days, and now I travel with a smaller suitcase. But I think that there are little things that I check on, like passport, money, telephone, charger, computer, and then everything's fine.
Underwear.
Yeah, underwear too.
Lots
This you
of
can
underwear.
buy. At the end of the day, you arrive and you can buy. I remember.
I always pack way too many underwear when I travel anywhere. It's like I'm going to crap my pants 15 times.
But
I'll run out of shorts, I'll run out of shirts, but I have 30 pair of underwear. I don't know why.
You know what? Actually, one of the tips that I will give you, it was very important to me. In the bag you have in your backpack or whatever, not the check-in luggage.
Right.
Take always one underwear and one T-shirt.
Okay.
Always, in case they lost your luggage.
Yeah.
And you go and say,
You got
okay,
one
I'm
change.
fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine. This is my
For
first
one
tip.
change, yep.
Yeah.
You can make it to a
Yeah,
store.
but you made it exactly. You made it to a store. The following day, I said, okay, I'm going to buy underwear.
Ooh, this is a good idea.
But
So rich because he's got 30 pairs.
I got an extra pair.
so sometimes I travel and I go to control and the woman says, oh. Oof. They don't know whether the underwear is
Clean
clean
or
or
not,
not, but it's there, Oof. You just say, can I go through it? Be my guest. Sure. Go for it. You're good. Yes, move along. Yeah, move along. Next.
Run along.
Yeah, but I like to think that I'm organized. Yeah, it's I like routine. I like to know. Okay, I do a lot of programming, so I.
You wouldn't fit in well here.
No, I think you are. But in any case, for me, for example, I like to wake up at 5 a.m. So at 5 every day, I put the alarm. I send the program to my athletes, and then I hit the day. And I had breakfast, go to the office, and try to use the day the best that I can.
But do you plan your day in advance? Like, do you plan the day ahead the day before? Or how do you stay organized? Especially, I mean, I feel like with people, when you have multiple facets, lots of buckets of things going on, you can end up just being a reactionary human to emails, calls, things like that when you have a plate that's full. So do you take the day before to
I'm not that organized either. I'm not like writing notes the night before.
Yeah,
all
some
the
people
things.
do. That's why I asked.
It doesn't work for me. But
Okay.
I try to do my best. I mean, like everybody else.
Yeah.
It's just the thing is like when you enjoy so much what you do, it's always a priority for you.
Yeah.
When you love something and you love the chances, you just go.
Yeah.
You enjoy
Ready to
doing
go.
them.
Right.
Yeah.
But, maybe if I would have a job that I would enjoy, I would be like,
Yeah.
I would be the last one to get there and the first one to leave.
Right. It's
In
different.
my case, we're all blessed in this community, so it is a boost for me to do my best and to be the best organized that I can. Not that I always get there, but
Yeah. It's a valiant effort, though, for sure. So aside from packing underwear and a T-shirt, what else would you say for your travel advice?
just to stay cool, I think. I mean,
Stay
I think
cool.
that people
Like-
tend to stress too much about
my
what would
gosh.
happen, and nothing's happening, and you just
Yeah.
not enjoy the whole day of traveling because you think that things are going to happen.
What are
I'm
you
like,
laughing about?
The trip when we were over there.
Yeah, I'm happy the whole time, and I said, well, of course, if I see that my flight is delayed, I'm going to miss my connection. Then I get very dramatic. I'm Latino, so I get really like, please, I need to take this plane.
Yeah.
I said, there's
We'll be
no
on the
plane,
plane.
but I need to travel. Well, it's not my.
Right.
So I would be one of
Yeah.
those. But until that point, I try to remain
Stay.
calm.
Well, that's like traveling with my dad. He's an attorney, and it is so stressful. It's like when you leave the house, you think the plane is on fire. He's got 3 manila envelopes. You have to be there 3 hours early. We're like,
No
Dad,
way.
why are we running through the airport?
It just adds to the stress.
Oh, it's just terrible.
I like to get there about an hour before. I like to be about an hour and 15 maybe.
Yeah.
What's the easiest airport you've ever been in?
Nashville.
Nashville's
I was
pretty
gonna
good.
say,
Nashville is great. I mean,
It's very easy.
It's
Not
really-
really.
Out of all the
pretty
travel.
easy.
Well, Nashville is for being an international airport. Yeah, maybe yes. The thing is, in Europe, many of the flights it's 1 hour long, so
Right.
they are very short flights
Right.
the whole time. It's not like going to America where you need the passport. We don't have passport control. We don't have many of the things that you have when you travel internationally. So I like it here. Actually, I like the Opry Mills show there. The stuff
Everything.
here.
the carpet.
everything.
Yeah, Nashville's super. I mean,
It is.
I've traveled a lot, and it's easy.
It's the best one I've ever been to in the States.
Other than
for
they
sure.
changed the parking. The parking
Do you think
sucks
it's going to
now.
get harder, though, when they make it bigger?
Probably.
They're building a
Because it's
hotel.
nice right now.
Building a hotel.
Where
They're
that
building a
old
whole
parking
garage was.
another terminal. So, I mean, but I think the good thing is I think they're going to actually have more international, like real international flights. Right now, international means they
more
fly
of
to
like a-
Canada.
Right.
They fly to the Bahamas.
Well,
Other than that, they don't.
there is an international flight direct from Nashville to London. No?
Oh, yeah, you said that.
Twice a
Okay.
week.
Twice a
In case
week.
you-
Oh.
yeah.
Interesting.
Funny enough that you asked me, sometimes I measure the how good our airport is among the distance that I have to walk from my luggage and how long does it take to get my luggage. And here, you just walk and you
You're
wait
there.
5 minutes
And you're-
and it's
yeah.
there. So it's great.
Yeah.
And then you go out of the airport in another 2 minutes.
It's not a huge.
I usually don't check bags, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Usually.
But I will tell you that, can I say it? Well, I've read that the main airport in Rome might be the worst airport in the world because there is the airport where they lose the most of
Most
luggage.
luggage, yeah. I heard that
So
too.
many of my friends is like, you're going to Fiumicino, to Rome, just take hand
Don't.
luggage. Never.
Don't. Check bags.
And you always see the line and complaints there, and the company's like people are very upset.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's my tip.
So, can you understand multiple languages at one time? Like if you're in Europe and you hear someone speaking Italian and does your brain actually translate it all?
Unluckily, yes. I get a headache after that, but yes. So at home, we speak 3 languages. So my daughter Greta has been taught in 3 languages: German,
Wow.
Spanish, and French. So at home, we speak
That's
only
amazing.
German and Spanish, and the daycare and the nanny in French. So
Does she understand the difference between them?
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
Trice just can't even understand.
she's older than Trice. Yeah, she does. She can't-
I would like Trice to learn Italian or something. Anything.
Yeah.
Just communicate.
You'd have to learn Italian.
Instead
That'd
of
be great.
smacking you and pointing.
we were worried though, huh? We were worried that wouldn't go well. I was like, oh man, it's
If
going
it
to be
was-
going to be really
just
messed
gonna
up.
be like-
Confused, she goes to daycare and starts speaking, and
So,
that's
but
really
it
interesting.
works well, yeah. So,
That's cool.
What's
That's
the biggest
impressive.
lesson you've
So
learned
cool.
from Greta since having Greta?
How I miss my bed, sleeping time.
Mm-hmm.
Sleeping time is
Preach it.
it's the thing.
So when you travel, you try to get real sleep.
Yeah, I do. I've been going to bed at 9 here, I think, 9:30 p.m.
Yeah, you always take advantage of travel. For sure. Whenever you have kids, it's like,
Yeah. But I remember after the tour we did, I stay in bed for a couple of days.
I was messed up after that.
Yeah, especially because we used to take planes very early in the morning. So I remember from Paris, we woke up at 4:15 a.m.
And we
at the reception.
and we didn't get to the room till like 11,
Oh yeah,
11:30.
sometimes we're like, oh, please, we just and
Yeah, and everybody wanted to entertain, and we were like, just let us go home.
And I remember that in France they believed they were siblings. Remember?
Oh yeah,
It's your brother?
Yep.
Yeah.
My son, in any case, but no, because we look very similar. No?
My son, Reach.
Yeah.
Reach.
Have you, I'm sure you have multiple times, but I guess recently had any hilarious like miscommunications? Because I imagine translating between multiple languages every now and then you can stumble upon things that end up being miscommunicated.
Yeah, I learned my lesson long ago in my job in the parliament not to translate jokes. That's the first thing that I've ever learned about translation, because something will be very funny for you and it's lost in translation. The other guy's like,
No.
You're like,
you're like, what's that? And
yeah.
But for the rest, no. I think I get confused sometimes too myself. I mean, speak three. I want to say a phrase, and the first part comes in German and then in Italian. So I get very, especially when I'm tired. But no, I think it's so far so good.
Is humor like? Is it because when you guys came back, he was saying like you kind of have like similar scripts and that you could just like immediately like switch the script, but that like Coach Hinshaw had jokes and things like that. Is humor different?
Yeah, when we would
across,
translate,
like,
it was funny because, we would tell a joke or we'd like do a little banter back and forth. And if Facundoe was translating it, we would laugh. And then Facundoe would say it, and then everybody would laugh. So it was kind of like
the delayed.
You'd get a couple chuckles that actually understood what we were doing, and then Facundoe would say it, and then everybody would laugh.
And everybody's probably waiting for the punchline.
Yeah.
So that's hard, actually.
Yeah, it was really hard.
Because people are waiting for that, and if you don't deliver, it's like, put your face like, all right,
Do you think people in the U.S. are funny?
Yeah.
Or do you think we're not funny?
Yeah, I think they're funny. They are very different. I like English humor, like from the UK. They're very, very ironic and like black humor. America is very healthy, let's say, compared to that humor. But I enjoy them both. Yeah.
You mean blunt humor?
Yeah.
Not black humor.
No. It's dark humor.
Dark humor.
Sorry. I mean,
Boston translation.
yeah,
Gotta be careful with those.
You're fine.
Dark humor. I got it.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
yes.
sorry. That's what happens when I translate literally.
Black magic.
Not black humor. We're not.
We got
no
it.
black humor.
No. It's like dark humor.
Dark humor. Gotcha.
Good to go.
Oh boy. Am I done now? Can I want to go home.
No.
Start speaking in Spanish.
That would be awesome. So you always bring us Belgian chocolate and treats, which is fabulous. Is there any food in Europe that you think is just absolutely not comparable to the United States?
Better or worse?
Better.
Yeah.
I would say there's a lot that's better. Right? I mean,
You said when you were where? You had the best meal you ever had, the best steak.
Italy. That's the pizza, the steak, the mozzarella,
Oh my
We
gosh,
were together.
cheese.
So he was very hungry. That's why maybe that's I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
he was fasting. So
Very
it's
hungry.
the first food in maybe 24 hours he had.
I don't know. That was really good. And then we went to a burger. We got a burger when we were at WIT. That was really good too.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah. Yes, I remember
somebody
that
else
burger.
didn't pay
Invited
for.
us. Yeah. It's different. I mean, I like American food a lot. I like burgers, and I like the way you. Yesterday, for example, Heidi Hinshaw made ribs.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I don't know how to eat ribs, so I got my fork and my knife and started doing like this.
it's like cutting
Finger
a Snickers.
food, bro.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then she came and said, "Did you mutilate my ribs?" What?
Easy. Have you ever had wings?
Yeah, wings I love.
Okay, wings are good. We got a good wing spot. Maybe we can do that for lunch.
I like pizza a lot, actually.
Pizza's good.
Pizza.
So
We had
in
pizza in
Europe-
Italy, and we have ice cream, and I like everything, actually. I
I
like
think
to
the
eat.
cheese is way better.
I don't
in
know,
Europe.
the
And,
gelato
That was good.
It was really good.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
good. That was very, very
I feel
good.
like prosciutto and stuff like that is way
This is
better.
my favorite
too.
food in the world, actually.
Yeah,
Prosciutto?
Italian or Spanish prosciutto is like every single day.
so
I could eat
different.
that place that we ate in Italy was delicious. The steak was awesome. The pizza was good. And then it was like, as nasty as it sounds, it was like pure mashed broccoli. Like,
yeah.
Like a
purified,
puree?
pureed broccoli. Oh, it was so good though. And then
Still
it was delicious.
broccoli. It's just smaller.
Well,
you
but
know,
in
more
Spain,
liquefied.
we went to Spain. Our first city was Spain, to a friend of ours, Isabel, and she invited us to a place, and we have tomatoes. You could smell the tomatoes like 10 feet away
And
already.
cilantro.
They were like,
Oh, your favorite.
Yeah, there was two things. There's two things on this planet that I do not like to eat. Pretty much, I'll eat anything else, but cilantro. I hate cilantro, and I hate asparagus. And so his whole deal the whole time was like, I'm gonna make sure that we don't get anything with cilantro or anything with asparagus.
May I interrupt?
Yep, go ahead.
Before going to Europe, I was scared because it's the first time Rich would do something like that so big traveling, and so I went to Hitler and I said, you know what, I'm really scared. Tell me something that I should avoid doing. And then she says, you know what? He hates cilantro and asparagus, and he says he's allergic, but he's not. So never give him that. Sorry.
Here's what it is.
And that's what he got actually by mistake.
First day,
You're like, oh, geez.
cilantro.
Here we go.
The second day, we get these salads, and it's ham, and it looks like ham wrapped in wrapped around mozzarella cheese.
Right.
White asparagus. It was disgusting.
Oh, bait and
Of
switch.
all the things you could eat.
Of all the things, like everything else was great. That I was like, oh, it was terrible. And then Chris couldn't have eggs, and then the sandwich had eggs on
A
it.
lot of eggs.
So this was an accident.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe.
There were
I think.
many people that wanted to help us, and the people would bring us food, and we were really struggling to eat. Sometimes we'd do 3 seminars back to back, like 2 hours, 2 hours, 2
Wow.
hours, and we were
Long
tired.
days.
So we would eat whatever people would bring us. We depended on generosity of people, like funny as it sounds. And
You have
so
any snacks?
kind of come attendees. Ooh, I'm very hungry. Yeah. I mean, Rich got all the good stuff. Then he shot the second one. I would get the rest. But it was still good, you know.
You only got rich scraps.
Yeah, exactly. The asparagus.
Yeah. And cilantro.
Asparagus dipped in cilantro.
Might throw up.
Oh my gosh. Do you have any other, I'm sure you guys do, so you spent countless hours together in Europe. Any good stories from the aerobic capacity tour?
Oh,
Rich
man.
came back and he was so tired. We're like, tell us stories. And he's like, I don't have any stories. I'm tired.
He was exhausted. No, it was fun.
be fair,
it was way better than I thought. Going in, I was like, this is going to be awful, but it was.
Well, you hate to travel. You
hate
really
to
said
travel.
that, and you came back that was a great experience.
Yeah, like I said, traveling with Facundoe, everything was easy. You know, we didn't. You know, there was a regiment, and you had to be at whatever time, and it was hard, like a hard timeline. But as far as the actual travel piece of it, wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
So both Rich and Hinshaw were very compliant. I try to be sweet as a person, but when I get like stressed, like I was like, hey, we need to do that. So I used to call Rich most of the time, but when I call him Lyle, which is his second name, middle name,
in trouble.
It's like, we need to move.
Let's go.
And Hinshaw is Edward's second name. So it's Lyle and Edward.
And Martin.
They knew
And Martin.
that,
We called him Martino.
that things were like, you need to move.
Like, time to
we're
go.
going.
I like it.
We're missing
He
the
did
plane.
I did learn that Chris is really high strung on that trip. That's what I did learn. That was
When it comes to traveling?
everything. You're like, dude.
Oh,
This,
God.
like,
He gets wound up.
So that's
like
why
this.
you needed the Facundo balance.
I mean, and it's
to
good
stay.
because I'm not
Yeah.
like that, and so it was probably good that in some things he would get and keep things on track. Where I'm just like, bro, come on. I mean, he
It'll
kind of
work
like he had the skeleton of how everything he wanted to go, which I would not have done.
Right.
And so it was good that he did that, but he would just get so worked up. I mean,
so he's
Facundo
very
are like,
structured.
we're like, look at this, and he would just like, we gotta have the picture. Like, it had to be height, had to do this, and the picture. We're like, Chris, just take the freaking picture. Like, calm down. Like, let's just take the picture.
Chris is very structured. It's a guy that works very hard, and it was a great experience.
Oh, it was
We'll do
great.
it again.
Like I said,
mean,
he ran. I mean, if it would have been up to me, there would have been no structure to
No,
any
me
of those
neither. I mean,
events. It would probably have been 17 different seminars, but this one kept everything online, and he was great at that.
Well,
but
it
it was
sounds
just
like you guys
funny
were a good
seeing.
team.
So he came up with a script of what the content of all our seminars. We didn't want to do something like, well, let's just do something very light and just take a picture. We wanted to pass a message,
yeah.
right? And both Rich and Chris have both an incredible experience as athletes, as coach. So we wanted to give to people a glimpse of what it feels to be a coach, the responsibilities and the obligations, and same as an athlete. So we wanted to come with a very structured message to give to the people.
Yeah.
And so Chris is extremely gifted for that. I mean, with the program, we all know how he is. So
I was gonna say that's what he is. He's a numbers coach,
Yeah.
man.
Let's say that he was the structure, and we were more like, we used to joke a lot, and to a point that very often in the end of the seminar, people would ask, "Do you really dislike him?"
Because we would just give each other crap the whole time, and by the end
Uh,
of it, you're like, you know, you've figured out how to like push buttons on each other and make fun of each other. So it was good.
So, and I finish with this. What I found very interesting is like people from our generation at least have this image of Rich being a secretive guy, very my training, nobody knew what he was doing, the secrets and so on, and we never saw him really fail on something. So I found very interesting to bring the memories of the 2010 rope climbs when he fall on his ass. You can say that. You can say that. Fall on his ass like really hard, or the 333. When he walked. And I think they're very human things to bring to people to see. Well, how do you do that? What did that hurt, or how do you feel as an athlete? And it was a very
a big part. I relived that every day that we were on the seminar.
Wow.
3 times a day.
9 days.
3 times a day.
Wow. But I think that's the interesting thing too, when we were talking about CrossFit earlier, how it's so different when someone starts now than when we all started like 8 or 10 years ago. And I feel like I'm always telling people, are like, don't watch or don't do this, that. And it's like, no, we actually all had to learn our first pull-up at some point. And we were talking about coaches the other day, and I was like, I feel sorry for the coach that taught me how to do muscle-ups. I cried every day for 3 months. Every
day when you were here.
No, I did. Okay, maybe sometimes.
Occasionally.
Every now and then.
But the best is when we told you your strict muscle-up wasn't a strict muscle-up.
I was having a bad day.
You were. Immediately starts crying. Waterworks. We're like,
they were critiquing my form. I really thought I had done a strict muscle up, and I showed them the video, which is like, that's not a strict muscle up. And I was like, what?
Oh, wow.
She started like this for one, and then she did this. And we're like,
I never hung.
She's like, I can do a strict muscle up. And we're like,
no,
are you sure? She's like, we're like, let's see the video.
Let's look at this. It's okay. Everyone has those moments. So who was your biggest influence growing up?
In the CrossFit world as a
Either.
Oh.
I know, right? Pivot.
I think. I have a wonderful mother. I mean, she's very close to me still. So
you go to the opera every year.
Yeah,
that's special.
And she comes once a month to take care of. To help me take care of Greta, because Greta's growing up and she gets very demanding. And,
she speaks 3 languages already. Come on, that's
but
so
she also
cool.
gets very demanding.
She's like,
how old is she?
She's 2.5. 2.5, and now she's transitioning from daycare to the pre-kindergarten. That's
pre-K. Yeah, they call it pre-K here, but yeah.
And she has a very strong character,
like Lakeland.
Like Lakeland back in the days. Like now, it changed a lot, but
Lakeland still has some strong-willed tendencies, to say the least.
So my mom was very much someone that I look up to, because she, I was raised in a world with a lot of demands. So you need to perform. I wanted to do this, and I wanted to be great. I studied psychology. It was my first degree in psychology, and then I moved to political science, and then into complex security. And you have this thing like you need to do well and so on. But she kind of kept in me this spark, like, but love. Is the most important thing. Yeah. So whatever you do, as long as you're a kind person and a good person, and you are lucky enough to be surrounded by love, everything is great. Yeah. And nowadays, one of the reasons why I come here very often to Cookville is because I feel very close to all of you guys. And it's when I have holidays that, I'm going there because I feel like home here. So that's what should answer your question.
It's your second favorite place in the world, right?
Yeah.
Germany was your first.
Yeah, exactly.
Where in Germany?
Berlin is my favorite city in the world.
Really?
Berlin. Yeah.
Why?
The history, the culture, it's incredible. It's so. Berlin was divided into 2 Berlins up to 89, 90, and you see still nowadays how people were brought in different regimes, like in an extreme communist regime and into a more liberal kind of regime, and you see it on the city, you see the constructions, you see how people live. It's like a movie sometimes. Wow. You see the former KGB office, and like 1 minute walk away, the former CIA office, and you see the tunnels people will use to get away from there.
Checkpoint Charlie.
Exactly.
That's a cool museum, actually.
Yeah. But besides that, it's a beautiful city, and you have. I find there everything that I like. In Berlin.
Well, so you talk about, you mentioned it from a coaching standpoint that, connection with the people is really important to you, that you come here because everyone is like family. You are like family. How do you find or what do you do when you're trying to connect with people? You have such a great ability. I've seen it in rooms full of people where you can connect people together. Is there a way that you do that, or that you find is the best way to bring people together or get to know somebody in these different settings?
Oof.
Rather than the you-know-what game.
We're going to... This is one.
It's coming up.
Now.
It's coming up.
No, I don't know. For example, if you're in a reach with Rich Froning, right? Mm-hmm. People are very happy being there, most of them. Like maybe not.
Depends. I've made some people angry.
Most of them. So
sometimes they puke in chalk buckets. It's just real life.
I don't know. I like to... When people, I don't know, it's a very hard question to answer. I think that when I see some spark of joy in people, I feel, I want to have that. I want to see why are they happy when I share my part of it. I think it's a very natural thing. There are many times that I'm in a room and I'm like, I'm out, like invisible in the corner. Yeah. So like, I don't want to be here. Yeah, but in the CrossFit world, it's great. As you mentioned before, I was very lucky to come across with very renowned athletes, and so people come the whole time say, how is Rich? What have he do? And this and that. For me, it's very beautiful to be able to share my experience.
Your true opinion.
So my true opinion.
Yeah. That guy sucks.
Man, he's a bad human.
He's the worst. He's the worst.
You want to talk about your game?
Yeah, I love to ask questions. I feel very uncomfortable here because I am the one.
Literally, for 9 days straight, we played this game.
While you were in Europe, you're talking about?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So just before going to Europe,
he likes to ask questions to see how you answer, so he can figure out how you think.
I feel like it's a character analysis for sure.
It's
maybe it's too much. It's just a funny game.
No, it's hilarious because you can do it in any context.
But your psychology is your background, so
yeah. But you cannot analyze someone who doesn't want to be analyzed.
That's true.
Because psychologists, we are very naive. You pay to tell us your problem, so we always expect that you're honest. You can completely fool us.
You can change it.
Yeah, and said, well, why would he lie to me? Who's
the hardest person you've ever tried to analyze?
Good question. Great question.
That we would, like, CrossFit wise.
Okay.
Or who's somebody that's like completely thrown you for a loop that you thought they were this person and that turns out they weren't that way?
I think maybe Catherine Davies-Ottir.
Really?
Yeah. I think that I had an image of her that is very different to the Catherine that I know.
Yeah.
And it's crazy for me to see most of the athletes, but how you can be a very, very sweet person, warm up for a workout and become a pure beast and an animal. Mm-hmm. Something that I would never be able to do. So that change always surprises me. Though I remember when we did the camp some years ago with Tosh. Remember that you guys ran? We were talking about with him. So as psychologists, female and male as a competitor are very, very different. So I studied psychoanalysis, which is like Freudian psychology, which is based on the triangle father, mother, child, and everything comes down to that. And so a male athlete, it's an alpha male. The way a male athlete sees competition. Imagine you are running and you see Jason Kalipa coming closer to you and you speed it up. And I said, I need to win this one. Apparently a woman, when she's winning, but another woman is coming close, it's like, oh, what should I do? I'm not strong enough. This is my weak point. And which is not bad at all. It's much more complex only, which is very good for a woman because men apparently are very simple and women are much more clever in that aspect.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing from psychology world that I brought into the CrossFit world.
Were you there when me and Sarah did that muscle up burpee workout for Tosh, the impossible workout?
Into doing that.
It was awful. Yeah. It was so bad.
Was it really a psychological test? Like I remember you guys doing that, but were you supposed to fail? Like what was the goal of it?
It was you had to do 30 or 40 muscle ups.
You were given the chance to do an amount of muscle ups. Of burpees.
Burpees?
To start every minute that you thought you could do. You choose 15. And Sarah chose 12.
No, Tosh chose 15
for you. Okay. Yeah. But Sarah chose 12 for her, I think.
Something like that, or she thought she could do 15.
Exactly.
And you had to accumulate a certain amount of muscle ups.
30.
But every minute you didn't finish 30, you had to add a muscle up.
Oh.
You had to add a muscle up.
So if you didn't finish, obviously you're not going to finish in 1 minute. So you had to do 31. If you didn't finish in 2 minutes, you had to do 32. Okay. And so you just kept going up. And so quickly you realize this is basically, because I was getting I would get done and I would get 4 or 5 muscle ups. And I realized once we kept going, it's not going to happen. So you just keep going until Tosh says, hey, we're stopping the muscle ups and just go. And so I knew that, and I guess Sarah didn't quite figure that out.
No, it was actually to make her work on that.
And she would like take a minute off, because you could take a whole minute off and then try to go the next minute, but you had to add.
But you keep adding the reps.
But you had to do the burpees every minute, no matter what.
Yeah.
But still, it was all, because I didn't want to do it, and I wasn't like mentally. I'm like, this is dumb. I don't want to be a part of this, and I had to do it. And so I'm just like, I know that this is impossible. Like it keeps the more. At first, I didn't think it was impossible. Then the more and more I got into it, I was like, just hang on and just do it. And then Tosh eventually was like, all right, we're capping the muscle ups, finish and whatever. And so we finished, but it was
hard.
It was a nightmare.
How long did you guys end up doing it for?
I think you finished before her, 3 or 2 minutes before her. And it was 20 minutes,
20
minutes,
something like that. It was like
it
was like 180 burpees and
Gosh.
something. Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah.
And then we did that Tosh death march.
It was like a death march.
I stay home literally drinking wine. I remember.
my
Did you ever come out and watch any of it?
Yeah, when Ron Ortiz got dizzy.
Oh yeah, when Ron Ortiz about passed out, and then Sarah tried to steal a Progenics bar to take with us, and I was like, "You put that back, because if he catches us with that, it's going to be worse."
Or about our team just getting lost in the middle of nowhere, and we're like, "This isn't right. We're not supposed to be lost in the woods here."
No, you guys were lost because you guys tried to cheat.
We didn't cheat.
You cheated.
Oh, yeah. Froning, who knows the mountain, gets to lead the way. And we, who've never been... You have Shane Orr from Australia literally sniffing leaves I think we go this way. And we're like, okay, Shane?
Never been in that part of the woods.
You have a teepee in the woods there.
Not where we were at. It was simple.
Did you say a teepee?
Yes.
Me and Matt Billings built a teepee on the other side of the ridge. Like
It's the same mountain.
Not where we were going.
Right.
And just, obviously you look at where it is, where Dad's house is. We know where Dad's house is. Not you, but Darren, Dan, all of those guys. Those guys have been in the woods numerous times on that mountain. And so they followed us up the hill. And then at the last second, just took off sprinting.
No, that was not.
No, that's exactly what happened.
Dan.
It's exactly what happened.
I was
and
totally
so
on
we
him.
got punished for being second. Our team did. And so then when we finished, they tried to follow us down. And I was like, I'm staying here till you guys figure out where you're going. And then they went down and we went a different way.
Rich looks at the camera guys and goes, turn the lights off. We're like,
so then
okay, we're going to die now.
Yeah, we walk up, we cross the street.
That's awesome.
And there's these horses in this field. And these guys won't climb the fence because there's horses in the field.
They were charging us.
Horses were charging.
Dan takes a Chick-fil-A sandwich and is like, and chucks it. Like
that's
the horse is going to chase a Chick-fil-A sandwich.
No.
I was like, you moron.
The only sandwich you had, actually, maybe.
He gave us 2 sandwiches for 8 people and then 4 miniature Kit Kats.
And you guys got soup at some point, right?
Yeah, because we beat you.
That's because we were lost in the woods fearing for our lives because we didn't grow up on the mountain, but it's fine.
That was a good night, though. It was great.
There's stories that have gone on for years about this night.
It was oddly more painful on like your ankles and knees and things.
My feet hurt so
your
bad.
feet hurt for days after that. It wasn't really like...
I am not going to say any names, but for some of you, mentally, it was very challenging.
There were some people that were having nervous breakdowns, yes. And it was more because
I was pissed.
It was open season and like the people that were having nervous breakdowns were like, it's the open and we're all going to die now. Yeah. Our feet are going to break.
We're not going to make the games.
Yeah, it was more about...
People's coaches were calling and complaining.
I remember,
so.
Although that is the coldest water I've ever been in my entire life.
That was
and
pretty
I've been in
cold.
A lot of cold water.
Because you had to cross some streams or something?
So there was 2 separate workouts. They got to pick their workout. But essentially, they were very similar workouts once it got down to it. But you had 2 assault bikes. And Tosh had a set number of calories that he wanted done on each assault bike.
Right.
And you had to accumulate those calories, and while other people were doing work behind you. And whenever you wanted to switch that person on the assault bike, somebody on your team had to go down to the pond and swim across the pond. And the pond was probably 40, 45 degrees. And you had to swim across the pond.
Okay.
And so...
Like, beyond take your breath away.
I swam across it, I think, 3 times. Like, I have no idea how many calories we did. But I was like, I'll go get in. I don't want to do the rest of the stuff. So I would go swim through the pond. But it was, you'd dive in and immediately you'd come up because you're like, I'm going to like,
wow.
It was so bad that Ron cramped up. John Esposito cramped up. We had to carry them like the rest of the way. Ron was dying. And then we had a couple, like Chris was with us on one of the things. And he was like slowing our team up. And I was like, he's not part of our, because I was so pissed at these guys at this point. I was like, he's not part of our team. Leave him. I don't care. And so and then Ron was dying. And then we got back to the house and we had to run to the end of the driveway a couple times, and then he gave us this huge Bubba thermos of chicken noodle soup.
That was 10,000 degrees.
It was so hot.
that you think you're going to get fed and then you burn your esophagus and you're like, torture!
What was the point of this whole evening?
Mental beat down.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to see if we could break people, I guess.
I gotcha.
It was fun to watch, actually.
Yeah. I wish I'd have been around.
Drinking wine. I bet it was fun to watch.
All right,
wine was fun.
So on that note, the survival, Facundo's game is if you're on an island, a naked and afraid game, the movie or the show.
Right.
I love that. I mean, I find it great. For
So
example,
if you were to do Naked and Afraid,
for example, I would ask Rich Froning, who would you go to a desert island naked and afraid? Jason Khalipa or Dan Bailey?
yeah. So
if you had to be on the island with one of those
with
two.
one of those guys,
3
Dan,
weeks.
Okay,
3
yeah.
weeks.
Sometimes you give duration. So it's
Dan has a little bit more knowledge of the outdoors. Jason lives in Silicon Valley. Not saying that he couldn't venture outdoors, but I feel like Dan would be a little bit more
savvy.
Yeah.
So savvy.
we did
Dan.
say that Khalipa would start a business on the island. Probably
Jason would be the person to start selling coconuts or bananas to monkeys. Right. So, bro, I got this idea. I think
He'd find the sweet spot.
he would.
The right
he would.
beach.
He would, and then turn it into real estate somehow. So
Yeah, so this is kind of questions that or for example, what would be your last meal? You're in dead row and you said, well, Elly, choose whatever you want to eat. It's going to be your last meal.
I had a good one for this the other day. Do I get can I have appetizers and a main course and a dessert and my palate cleansed and
Oh, jeez.
It's the taxpayers' money. And you're not getting it.
Yeah, you don't need your palate cleansed. You're getting ready to die.
You ever been, when you go to those really fancy restaurants with white cloths and they take they scoop the bread off and then they give you sorbet before
Elly,
they
kale.
You're
She
in
would
jail.
have kale.
You're about to go to death row. I mean, it's not about manners. It's about, getting a good piece of
I'd go with that meal in Italy. It was good.
I would have a Baskin Robbins turtle pie. It's like an ice cream cake with all kinds of frosting thing. Yeah, I'd go out like that.
I mean, I'd pick steak if my dad made it, but if he doesn't make it, then I don't want that. Then I want if it was starting with appetizers, I would go with prosciutto and mozzarella and kale, and then I would probably pivot
Kale
into.
is your last effing meal.
No, I would want that to start, and then I would probably move into
lost me.
some kind of steak.
See, this is how you assess.
Move
somebody.
into.
And
that. No, it's the only question that I have asked you, and you're failing to answer it.
What are you trying to say?
It's you asked me 25 questions.
Totally
The
reflects.
one-
It totally reflects who she is and how we were raised. Because we're just trying to get something good in before it's over, and she's like,
if
I'm
it
gonna
was a
start here.
Tuesday
So I have
and it
another-
was 76 degrees, I'd
Okay.
have this. And if
Mine
it was
is
a Friday
complex.
and
I
it was
have layers.
42 degrees,
complex.
I'm
You're
complex.
just difficult.
I'm not difficult.
Complex
You're
and difficult are two
I
very
like
different
all
things.
foods except for eggplant and mussels because they're slimy.
Just pick something.
If you were gonna die, what would you eat, woman?
What are you going to eat?
Who likes some tempura vegetables?
What movie is that?
Tempura vegetables.
Couple's Vacation?
Oh, yeah.
Where he's like, don't you point a hypothetical gun at me. That's tempura vegetables.
Okay. We got an answer.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It's a bad answer, but
No,
okay.
I mean,
Man.
I don't
Next,
know.
we
Kind
got
of an
a couple
answer.
minutes. So what else we got?
Kind of an answer. So, you have any other one for me?
Oh, well, I did have the book of questions, which has some interesting ones. What was your, and vice versa, what was your first impression of Rich when you met him before you actually knew him? And vice versa.
He was very fit.
Do you remember the first day Facundo came with us?
She wasn't there. No.
She wasn't there?
She wasn't there.
Oh, okay. It was a track day is it 16? 15.
No, before that.
15? 15?
Yeah.
China was here. Freddie was here. Hinshaw and Facundo.
I was here
Ron
then.
was here then.
And
I think we
so,
all have a picture together.
the run, it was a run where you had to hit a certain amount of time. And if you didn't hit that time, you had to do a certain amount of burpees. Mm-hmm. And then you still only had that amount of time to get back to the line. It was like 2 minutes.
Yeah, I
Without
remember
a
that.
watch.
Without a watch. And so Facundo takes off hard.
I just ran out.
And then disappears to the bathroom several times. Freddie, the
went
same
for it.
thing. Freddie
Yeah.
sold his soul.
So I thought, I mean,
I do. that.
I thought how fit he is. I mean, like he's been running and hitting the right time. It was maybe 800 to 2 minutes sharp for every second of deviation. In the 1 minute race, you do 2 burpees. And everybody was doing it. Just, how can these people run without a watch? I mean, I cannot run with a watch. They are running and without a watch. So that was my first impression.
Well, that's a good way, because the actual question is using only one word per person. What was your first impression of each person present with you now?
My first impression, or the word that describes it the best.
One word.
For a first impression. Fit.
Fit, that's good.
Clever. Funny. So, Jim Clever.
Socks. Didn't you have some crazy socks on that day?
No, I have orange socks that would match my nanos because I want the picture to be like.
They were orange socks.
You always wear a lot of different socks, though, when we first met you.
Back then it was different. I mean,
I
got older. But the thing is, like, from someone coming from Europe, having the chance that Chris gave me back then to train with Reach, I wanted the picture of a lifetime. I mean, I was going to.
Might have been the only time, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Now I have to race because I have too many on my telephone. No, Reach.
We have a whole album.
But I want that picture to be perfect. And funny enough, we never find the time to do that. After 5 or 6 rounds, I got my breath back. I started running, and it was just when they started being punished because it was the only one round that they didn't hit the time, and it was like 12 burpees. I was like. I mean, so my first picture with Reach is I'm doing burpees with my orange socks.
Nice. Perfect. Okay.
All right, you got last hoorah here. Don't waste it.
I'm not wasting it. What room in your house best reflects your personality and why?
Okay.
The living room.
He's a psychologist. I'm waiting for it.
Living room, I think. One of the things that I enjoy the most nowadays is I'm not that in America it sounds very weird, but in Europe we have a cocktail before dinner every night, kind of. It doesn't have to be super alcoholic, but a dry martini or a gin tonic or whatever. So I enjoy when the day is coming to an end, before putting Greta to bed, like enjoy my house and my peace with my family. And
cool.
So
what about you guys?
The barn.
That's really a good one.
I mean, that's accurate. Or the basement where my workout spot is.
You know, it's funny. I think the kitchen, and I love my mornings with my wife, and we sit on the floor. We got these goofy little dogs that we feed, and we have 30 minutes just to, just kind of start the day that way.
That's legit.
Nice.
Yeah. Yours, Elly?
Being honest.
The liquor cabinet.
No.
Her car.
No. The tub.
Okay.
I have like an upstairs bathroom I've claimed with a tub. It's like my favorite spot.
You put candles on everything?
Yeah, it's like you can, everything.
Okay.
It's a good
That's
retreat.
legit.
Episode 64. The lights beeping, so we may not have a video on this, but hey. Episode 64. RP Strength Trifecta. Peace.